We are live, and the greatest international Spurs fan and international man of mystery, TARO KOTANI, in studio, as among other things. He's from Tokyo, Japan. You follow the show, you know that. You follow social media. He's been all over social media as we celebrate Coach Greg Popovich's big victory. So I got to make sure I get your mic correct. That's it. Here we go. Let's see now. When I do that.
This now, Chris Duel.
Welcome in on a Taco Tuesday. What a day. What a night last night for the San Antonio Spurs as Coach Greg Popovich and the Spurs defeat the Los Angeles Lakers. The Lakers, the marquee team in the NBA, now more than ever, especially now, if you're following the Lakers during their winning time HBO Max series that is on. Shannon and I watched during the day yesterday. Welcome in. It's the Chris Duel Show with Shannon, Salty, Sweeney. Very special in-studio guest joining us. We'll introduce him to you in a moment, but just a hint, he is an international man of mystery. And we call him the greatest international Spurs fan. He might just be the greatest Spurs fan ever after what I'm seeing on this, his 17th trip to San Antonio. But first, Shannon, Salty, Sweeney, how are you doing this morning?
Chris, I'm doing fantastic. Yesterday was an amazing Monday for me. I'm a little worried how the rest of the week is going to go just because it started off so great. Like, can we only go downhill from here? But so far this morning, I mean, we've got our special guest in studio. I can see him. I'm very excited that we get to meet virtually for the very first time. Hopefully there'll be more times in the future, but I'm feeling really, really good today. I'm not going to lie. I'm having a good Tuesday so far.
Very good. Happy to hear that. Well, let's go ahead and meet him. He's been in studio before. San Antonio loves him. Spurs fans love him. He is the greatest international Spurs fan. I'm not the only one who says that. Tony Parker has said that when he went to Tokyo and will back me up on that. This is his 17th trip from his home in Tokyo, Japan to San Antonio. This trip would have happened in 2020 if this crazy pandemic did not happen. So it's took him about a 2-year delay to do trip number 17. He was there last night as the Spurs beat the Lakers, and he's been all over the place. We'll talk about the people he's met and the things he has done on this trip since coming to San Antonio. International man of mystery and the greatest Spurs fan, maybe of all Spurs fans, TARO KOTANI. How are you doing this morning, TARO?
Thank you, Chris, for having me again. Hi, Shannon. Good to see you virtually. I do see you on my iPad right now. And Jeremy, thanks for having me as well. It's been quite some time since I last visited San Antonio. Last time I was here was October 2019, so about 2.5 years.
Wow.
Since. But the reception that I've been receiving here in San Antonio has been just overwhelming. So I've been just having a blast, since I got here.
Well, and, you've had very good receptions before. You've met the mayor, Ron Nierenberg, before. You've got to get up close and personal with players. I've seen you photos with Manu Ginobili getting an autograph, David Robinson, Becky Hammon. I mean, this time, though, I'm looking at social media, and I'm seeing you with David Robinson. I see the Spurs gifted you a jersey, number 50 jersey, which means David Robinson, but on the back, your name, TARO, autographed by David Robinson. I see you last night, photo of you with the Coyote, you with Bill Schoening. Somebody sent me a photo of you up on Jumbotron with Chuck Carreau and company. There's video of you on the court talking to Keldon Johnson. He comes over to meet you. You didn't like walk over to meet. He came over to meet you. Hey, I'm Keldon Johnson. Wow, there's TARO KOTANI, the greatest international Spurs fan. And I told you this in the hallway a few minutes ago before the show. You are getting the full Spurs fan experience, I think, unlike any San Antonio or Texas fan. I mean, the things I'm seeing you experience time after time after time after time with different Spurs, with the Coyote, with Bill Schoening, just the whole thing. I don't know any Spurs fan who's done all the cool things you've done just on this trip.
Yeah, I mean, I came here. I flew in Wednesday night, and then I went to a game against the Sacramento Kings on Thursday. So my ticket rep, Jimmy Olsen, who always does an awesome job of preparing my tickets, he had tickets prepared, and then Chris Monroe, another representative from the Spurs, came in, and he told me he could give me an upgrade. And where I sat was right across from the Spurs bench in the very first row. So, and David Robinson was right behind me on the second row, and I was just like, to be in the arena for the first time in like 2.5 years and to have a seat like that, kind of sandwiched between David Robinson and the court, and you see the Spurs bench right across.
Yeah.
It was just amazing, and it was a great feeling, honestly, that Sacramento game, I was so close to the game, and I knew I had David Robinson was like right behind me all the time. So I don't remember much about the game. I do remember, like you said, Chris, I did receive a custom Spurs Fiesta jersey from the Spurs with my name and number 50 on it, and they gave me that jersey right before that game, and then I see David Robinson was right behind me. So during halftime, I walked up to him and said, "Hey, David, could you sign my jersey?" And he said yes, and I took a picture with him. He was super nice.
Now, what's so cool about that, Shannon? And I talk about the story how Sean Elliott came to Japan when Taro was a kid. But the reality is you got into the Spurs. This is what I love about the story. If I have this right, Taro, the guy who really got you to become a Spurs fan was David Robinson. Is that right?
Yes, it was David Robinson. So I think I remember probably the first season I started watching the Spurs was 1990-91 season. I remember that because I remember the Bulls winning the first championship. And back in the day, we would get some games on TV in Japan, NBA games in Japan. Typically, they feature the Bulls, Lakers with Magic Johnson, Portland Trailblazers with Clyde Drexler, athletic guards who have a lot of highlights. And I always had the sense that the centers are big but boring, unathletic. They kind of, dunk the ball, rebound the ball just because they're big. And I see David Robinson on TV. I don't remember what game it was, but I see a 7-footer who's just running up and down the court, flying, literally blocking shots, rebounding, dunking. And that just like blew my mind, when I was 10, 11 years old. And he was the reason why I got into the Spurs. And somehow I've kept it up for over 30 years now.
Wow.
Yeah.
So Shannon, how cool is that? The guy who made him a Spurs fan, David Robinson, first of all, he gets upgraded to front row, which is mind-blowing. Only once in the modern era, Shannon, have I sat front row at a Spurs game. Back in the Hemisphere Arena days, there were empty seats in the front row, and I was a knucklehead 15-year-old kid, so we just walked down and sit, and nobody cared because there were empty seats everywhere in the Hemisphere Arena. But it is... Shannon, I mean, imagine your favorite... That's like me getting to watch Roger Staubach or sit near Roger Staubach front row at a Cowboys game. For him to be there, to get a jersey with David's number on it, to get David's autograph and sit sitting in front of David. He had better seats than David, Shannon. That's crazy.
Yeah, I've been to now one Spurs game against my Dallas Mavericks, and I remember, one of the highlights that I told you about was they showed Manu on the Jumbotron. He was sitting in a suite somewhere, and then David Robinson, who was also in a suite somewhere. But here comes Taro, and Taro comes and sits right in front of him. I can't imagine. It's almost like, when there are music award shows on or any sort of celebrity, they have a packed house and you're judging the seating placement, right? Oh, this person's now more popular than this person because look where they've moved in the lineup as far as seating and camera shots. And Taro has made his way to the front row. I mean, we need to go to a game with Taro because he's got the in. That's who you go with.
Well, and Shannon, as we talked to Taro, and he's hanging out with us today, which is cool, but the big story last night for the San Antonio Spurs, and we're going to get into everything, the Calvin Ridley story, which, my God, if you look at the very short list of NFL players who have been banned for gambling, it is a very, very short list, and we'll get into that. Aaron Rodgers expected to make a decision today. We'll find out. But Shannon, for the Spurs, and we've been talking about this moment for a long time now. Last night, with the win for the Spurs, Greg Popovich ties his former mentor. He was an assistant coach under Don Nelson at Golden State at one time. Friend Don Nelson. They are tied at 1,335. Shannon, how do you feel about Greg Popovich finally reaching the top of this mountain? And he will stand alone on that mountain when he gets his next win, perhaps as early as tomorrow night.
Well, I'll tell you how I feel about it, Chris, based on our poll question today over on Twitter, Ticket 760 and AM 1300 The Zone, asking where does Coach Greg Popovich rank among greatest NBA coaches ever? We have the greatest of all time, currently at 25%, 75% of the vote going to in the top 5, and then you also have in the top 10 and way down the list as other options. Right now, I'm going to say in the top 5. And that's not me being, a non-Spurs fan, but I can see where other people may have the argument of, maybe championships or certain players that have come through to give them that boost. But certainly within the top 5, and, maybe at times he's seen as a 1, maybe a 2, but a top 5 coach for me, and possibly even top 3.
Yeah, and Shannon, I know, and we'll talk about it. Like you, I watched the new HBO drama about the Lakers called Winning Time, the beginning of the Lakers dynasty. And one of the things you saw in episode 1 was the dominance of the Boston Celtics and Red Auerbach. And they won all those championships in a row, and he'd smoke the big old cigar after the Celtics would win. But there were like 8 teams in the NBA at the time, and Boston had all the talent. So you look at great coaches who won lots of championships in the NBA, like a Red Auerbach. He kind of inherited the marquee franchise, and I won't even say inherited, I'll say built the marquee franchise in an era when there weren't a lot of teams, and a lot of teams didn't have the assets like Bill Russell and John Havlicek that the Celtics had. Then, of course, there's Phil Jackson, the Zen master, who had major market. And we know he had Michael Jordan for a lot of his championships, and then he had Magic and Shaq and Kobe. Well, he didn't have Magic. He had Shaq and Kobe. So I really, and I know I'm a homer, Shannon, and I accept that, and I know it probably does color my opinion a little bit here. But when I look at Greg Popovich and what he did in a small market, and there were people, being a Spurs fan since the ABA days, there were people in San Antonio and elsewhere who said no ABA team is ever going to win the NBA championship. There were these conspiracy theories that they would find a way to keep the 4 ABA teams, and Red Auerbach never wanted the ABA teams to merge with the NBA. And for Greg Popovich and the Spurs to do this in a small market where it had never been done before, where, let's be honest, I love San Antonio, you do, Shannon, Jeremy does, Taro does, but it's not a hotbed market for free agents. We're finding this out now with no Tim Duncan. It's hard to bring free agent superstars to San Antonio. For Pop to go to 6 NBA finals, to win 5 of them, to be 1 win away now from the most wins regular season. He's already got regular season plus postseason because of all those playoff wins. I rank him as number 1. I just think what he's done in this small market, in an era of superstars who not necessarily would not want to stay in San Antonio, and in a time where Tim Duncan was nearly lured to Orlando by Doc Rivers after Tim's rookie contract was up, I go with Pop as the GOAT. So how much of that, Shannon, is because I'm biased and just a Spurs homer, and I'm wearing a hat that says "In Pop We Trust"?
Maybe a little bit of it, but again, I think the argument is certainly there, for sure. So I'll give that a pass to you. But yeah, if you were to make that against someone who's like arguing heavily for somebody else, maybe don't wear the hat. Maybe take that off.
Yeah, it's like, Chris, are you a little bit biased with your Greg Popovich hat and your Holy Saint Popovich prayer candle?
Yeah,
maybe I'm a little biased. Let me check. Jeremy KOLOK, let's say hello to him this morning, our Soundscape stylist. Jeremy, where do you come down on the poll question? He will be atop the mountain in regular season wins and regular season plus postseason wins with his next win. But in reality, Phil Jackson, Red Auerbach, the greatest coaches in NBA history. Where do you rank Greg Popovich?
Well, first of all, good morning.
Good morning
to everyone. In reality, I have Greg Popovich ranked number 1, and I have for quite some time. But now when you have both of the numbers with his name at the top of the list as far as wins all time just outright, and then also now regular seasons, there's not a little asterisk next to it. You know what I mean? It's tough to argue against him. The only one I could really see is Phil Jackson. Like, okay, I could see an argument for Phil Jackson, but with everything you said, as far as a coach that has done more with less, as far as organizational resources, and a coach who has built success on a culture and on a system. Not saying, obviously couldn't do it without Tim Duncan, but he doesn't have a Kobe Bryant, a Michael Jordan, where you could say, hey, can you go, make an incredible shot at the buzzer to win us the game? I mean, the Spurs it's a whole entire culture that has built success. So I do have Popovich number 1. Maybe I'm biased too, but I don't have any Greg Popovich memorabilia or anything related to him in this little room that I am in.
Very cool. And we'll talk more about Pop. So many stories, my goodness, in the world of sports. As I mentioned, the big story in the NFL yesterday. Who'd have thunk that Calvin Ridley, a wide receiver and a good one with the Atlanta Falcons, would become the top story in the last 24 hours, when you got the whole Aaron Rodgers and even more Tom Brady intrigue out there now. But Calvin Ridley has been banned for at least 1 year in the NFL for gambling. We'll get into that. We'll get into the quarterback musical chairs. It is expected by many that Aaron Rodgers will make his decision today. The Green Bay Packers have made him a substantial offer. So we will talk all things NBA, all things NFL, college sports. And in the 8 o'clock hour, JJ GOTTSCH, who has done amazing things in the world of sports, including the Round Rock Express. He brought Major League Baseball exhibition games to San Antonio, to the Alamo Dome. He is now involved in an incredible venture in Austin, a brand new franchise with an established league with the professional bull riding team Austin Gamblers. This is wild, and we'll get into that at 8:15. She is Shannon Salty Sweeney. Jeremy KOLOK makes the show go. Special in-studio guest, TARO KOTANI, the greatest international Spurs fan, hanging out with us this morning as well. You can join us on the phone lines. You're always welcome to join us at 800-707-9760. And on the live video feed, you want to see Taro and Shannon and Jeremy and me via Facebook Live, via Twitter and YouTube. Our live video feed up and running. And don't forget about that free iHeartRadio app. You can hear the show crystal clear and or message us instantly on the microphone button, the talk back. We can hear your messages instantly. Lots more coming up. Don't go anywhere. Till 9, it's the Chris Duel Show. Okay, so that's... Welcome in, everybody. Jason Paniagua, Lucinda Sullivan, Luisa Alanis, Hector Gomez. Lots of people saying hello to Taro. Sam Tobias. Beth Settle, good morning. Gabe Quintanilla. Robert Rodriguez, Wes Perkins, Tracy Bogert, Jesse Bratton, Anthony Del Toro, Steve Duraco, the original Rock. Welcome in. We'll put Taro in the biggest frame there since they see us all the time here. They don't see you nearly as much on this show. Let's see. So have you eaten anywhere interesting since you've been here?
Not in particular. I've been to like Whataburger twice.
Okay.
I've been to Shiloh's downtown.
Oh, that's a great place.
Yeah.
I like that a lot.
Yeah, I like that place a
Yeah.
lot. Yeah.
I know you've been to Whataburger. We do have In-N-Out Burger if you can find it. Do you like Mexican food?
Yeah.
You get it when you're here? Okay. Have you been to Mi Tierra downtown?
Yeah.
That's a classic. It's been around since like the 1940s, 24 hours a day. There's a photo. Bill Clinton, whenever he would come into town as president, would go to Mi Tierra. There's a photo. Let's see if I can find it. You've probably seen it. At Mi Tierra, it's Bill Clinton, Greg Popovich, and Julian Castro, who at one time was the mayor of San Antonio. He was in President Obama's cabinet. He was the Secretary of Housing and Urban Development. But they're like sitting at a table at Mi Tierra laughing about something. I'll see if I can find that photo for you. Let's see. Yeah, I agree with you on Alamo Cafe, Wes.
Cafe. Chris Madrid. Okay.
Good morning, Mark Martinez. Mark wants to know, Taro, what do you work in? I guess you want to know what Taro does for a living?
Oh, I do HR for an American pharmaceutical company.
Very cool.
Yeah. Stomeyer Squibb.
Oh, my goodness. I didn't know that. I didn't know which one it was.
Yeah, I'm like their head of total rewards in Japan.
That is so cool.
Last couple of years, I was supposed to have a business trip to New York.
Yeah.
So my boss, who's in New York, actually, so she was always like joking me, saying, whenever you come to New York, you can go to San Antonio afterwards, catch a couple games.
Yeah.
It's never happened because of the pandemic.
Wow. Now that the pandemic is hopefully waning, will that come up again? Will you have the chance?
Yeah, that's what she was saying. Hopefully, she was saying she'll try to get me into New York this November.
Cool. Yeah, I'm going to put up on this screen, Taro. I don't know if you have it up, but there were a lot of photos from this sequence, but there's the famous photo that's at Meteora. Bill Clinton on the left, Henry Cisneros, who was once mayor of San Antonio as well. He's at a lot of Spurs games. That's Julian Castro, and then Pop on the far right. But yeah, a Meteora is just a classic San Antonio Mexican food restaurant. Mark Taro is from Tokyo. Did you grow up in Tokyo? Have you always lived in Tokyo?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Jason wants to know if you've been to Buc-ee's. Do you know what Buc-ee's is?
No.
Buc-ee's is when you travel like on I-35 or across Texas, and now they're in multiple countries. It's like it's a place you stop when you drive distances, and it's Buc-ee's. It's got a beaver on the logo. It's kind of a popular place. A lot of food, a lot of snacks, drinks. They got all kinds of stuff you can buy in there. But yeah, Buc-ee's is really popular. But you almost have to leave San Antonio to. I think the closest one is that one in New Braunfels. So it's not like there's one easily accessible from downtown San Antonio.
I want to go to Chris Madrid's.
Chris, have you been yet?
I've been there once.
It's a great hamburger. Wow.
They burned down.
Did at one time burn down. I'm not sure. I think they rebuilt it. But we used to do like every year, what's the best hamburger in San Antonio? And Chris Madrid's would come up quite a bit. Other than, Whataburger is fast food. So we'd say, all right, other than what, just like a place where you sit down and it's more like a restaurant. Chris Madrid's is a big one. Yeah, Carl Fisher is saying it's rebuilt.
No, it's rebuilt. Okay.
Here we go.
Let's get back to the Chris Duel Show with Shannon Salty Sweeney. Find Chris and Salty on Twitter at Chris Duel and at Shannon B. Sweeney. I don't know where. Folsom Prison.
Very nice. Little Johnny Cash for you in the morning. Compliments of our Soundscape stylist, Jeremy KOLOK, Chris and Shannon in the morning, and Jeremy, our friend TARO KOTANI in studio, the greatest international Spurs fan. That was Johnny Cash. Have you ever heard of Johnny Cash musically?
I might have heard of him.
That was the first time you heard of Johnny. Johnny was a big country act, no longer living, but Johnny Cash, a big deal. I was going to say, I imagine there's people in Tokyo who've heard of Johnny Cash, but just checking on that one. Welcome in, Chris Duel Show with Shannon Salty Sweeney. In a moment, the high five play of the day. A little bit later, Shannon's Salty Shakedown. We've got this day in sports history, sports birthdays, as well as I mentioned earlier, a guy who has done so much in the world of sports over the years, and his fingerprints all over sports in the state of Texas, certainly in Austin and San Antonio. GOTTSCH going to join us just after 8 o'clock with a brand new venture starting up in Austin. In fact, they're going to be at the brand new Moody Center. It is PBR, Professional Bull Riding, the Austin Gamblers. We'll dive into that just after 8 o'clock. We're talking all things NFL as God intended. We'll talk Dallas Cowboys, Spurs. We talked a lot of Spurs in the first half hour with TARO KOTANI, who was at the game last night as the Spurs beat the Lakers to give Greg Popovich regular season win number 1,335, tying Don Nelson tomorrow night against Toronto. Pop can become number one, king of the hill, top of the heap, atop the pyramid. That will be cool. Don't forget that iHeartRadio app. It is free. You can listen to us crystal clear. You go to either AM 1300 The Zone or Ticket 760. There is a red microphone button. If you want to talk to us instantly, you press that red microphone button. You can leave a message, send it to us. We'll get it, and odds are we will play it on the air. But right now, as we come up on 6:42 in the morning, it is time for our high five play of the day, appropriately sponsored by High Five, 2 locations in the Austin area. We don't have one in San Antonio. If we did, we would send TARO KOTANI to it immediately. But Shannon, as soon as we can get TARO to Austin, one of the first stops will be High Five. Tell the people all of the wonderful virtues of High Five when you go in there.
Well, plenty of TV screens to watch Spurs and any other teams of your choice. Even when you're bowling, there's plenty of screens to go around and plenty of activities as well. Taro, I don't know if you've done axe throwing, but it's grown in popularity in the state of Texas, and both locations out in Lakeway and on Anderson Lane have axe throwing, as well as yummy treats and eats and beverages new for the 2022 year. So make sure you check out your local High Five today. And a high five just to start things off with one Mr. Jeremy KOLOK, who came through with this story this morning. Dick Vitale, best known as I don't know, maybe one of the faces of college basketball. I mean, certainly a voice of college basketball, but he's one of the few voices that you would recognize if you were to walk past him in the street. You can't say that for everyone, but as we know, he is once again battling cancer and going through treatments. And as Jeremy says, his March Madness begins today. He's got a PET scan that will determine the current status of his cancer. It's a huge deal. Apparently, he thought it was going to be yesterday. He tweeted it out saying, "My major scan for over 1 hour has been moved to Tuesday at 8:30 a.m. So today, it is called the PET scan and will determine the status of my cancer." A big thank you this morning to some of his colleagues. He said that they sent him best of wishes. We know that Rick Barnes, former Texas coach and current Tennessee coach, actually texted a prayer to Dick Vitale before that Texas-Tennessee matchup earlier in the year. He's he's a guy who's on the minds of a lot of folks, especially college basketball fans, as we move into this season of madness. And we've gotten plenty of March Madness thus far with basketball. So a high five to Dick Vitale and to everyone to just wish him well today as he takes on this PET scan.
Yeah, wish him well and pray for him. You know, Shannon, you brought up Sister Jean yesterday as Loyola Chicago punched its ticket to the big dance. But man, Dick Vitale, and as you mentioned, that distinctive voice, and for decades now, and for so many years, especially come tournament time, NCAA tournament time, I mean, he's been the guy. He's been, more so than any other single personality in basketball. Some come and some go, but Dick Vitale is college basketball. Dick Vitale is the NCAA tournament, and certainly, Shannon, I totally agree. Keep him in your thoughts. Pray for him. I mean, and as you mentioned, we'll probably learn, as he does today, the results of that PET scan. And, let's hope that he is on the road to recovery. And let's hope that we still have Dick Vitale with us for a number of years. And how ironic, Shannon, that this major moment in his life comes in the month of March. It's all about March Madness, and already the tournament is on our minds. And here's Dick Vitale, with his very own major event in March, bigger than, arguably anything else in his life.
It's huge, and cancer touches so many of us, so it's something that we can all relate to, and he'll certainly be in our thoughts as we move into the tournament and conference championships this week. Again today, he said 8:30. I'm going to assume that's Eastern time, so he's very active on Twitter as he made that announcement yesterday, so hopefully we'll see some good news come on his page sometime today.
All right. Dick Vitale, keep him in your prayers, and keep an eye this morning, as will we, if we get an update on his status. And hopefully it is good news. As Shannon mentioned, I think all of us, you can't get through this life without being personally touched by cancer. I lost a sister to lung cancer. You either you yourself have had a journey with cancer. You may have it now, or somebody in your life may have it or have had it. Whether that's the case or not, the odds are someone very close to you is going to have it. So, we hope and we pray. But the good news is, that's the bad news, is it is so prevalent and so a part of our lives. But the good news is, with each passing year, the medical technology has become so much better that, people now who would almost certainly no longer be with us are now in remission, are now cancer-free, and now have hope. So that's a big, big thing. Now, I do want to follow up something you mentioned, Shannon. We asked Taro, and if you're just tuning in, the greatest international Spurs fan and international man of mystery, Taro Kotani, is with us in studio. He'll be there tomorrow night, hoping to see Greg Popovich set the record for most regular season wins in NBA history. But Shannon, you asked Taro if he did something. It's a big activity at High Five. You've done it. You're very good at it. Axe throwing. They get an axe, Taro, and they throw it at a target. Do they have axe throwing in Japan? Are you familiar with it, and have you done it?
No, I've never seen axe throwing activities in Japan. I've never done it before. I would like to try it. Sounds interesting.
See, you could bring it to Japan. You could be, I'm Taro Kotani. I'm bringing axe throwing to Japan. Shannon, you could hook him up. He could start like an axe throwing. He could be the foremost axe throwing man in Tokyo. It could be his thing.
There's a market there that I think he could easily tap into, because people.
So Shannon,
what's that? Go for it.
No, I was going to say, I'm sorry to interrupt, but describe to Shannon, describe to Taro why you like it. Why would you recommend axe throwing to Taro?
Well, first of all, to have something dangerous in your hand, I think naturally a lot of people are like, what if I just it's like the thing when you're in the car and randomly you're like, what would happen if I just drove off this road right now? I think we've all had that random thought, what if this was an action movie and I needed to take off immediately? And anytime I've had a knife, I'm like, what if I just flipped it and was able to catch it on the handle, right? What if I was dangerous and cool like that? And so when you get an axe in your hand and you're like, typically they would tell you not to throw this, but now I'm supposed to throw. I mean, it's just fun. It's a different kind of excitement. That's a little hard to explain. Some people probably think I'm a psycho right now as I'm like talking about playing with dangerous toys, but that was my excitement. Taro, I will admit the first time I threw one, I went the double-handed route behind the back and I hit the ceiling. So I suggest going the one-handed and throwing it more like a baseball.
I wonder, Shannon, is it a national thing or is it a Texas? It sounds very Texas to do axe throwing. Has this caught on nationally?
The first time I saw it was actually in Edinburgh when I was over there.
Whoa.
It was, we were going to a restaurant and there was like a full barn with like, but I think their axes were like a lot bit, like these are more like little hand axes. You know, pretty easy to throw. Those looked very large and very heavy as well. But they may have more practice. We're not there yet. I think it's a newer thing here stateside as far as having it be an activity that people enjoy with adult beverages as well on top of it because we're smart.
Yeah, see, here I'm so provincial and so Texas. We must have invented that in Texas. It comes from the other side of the Atlantic Ocean. It's probably been going on since medieval times. Probably axe throwing was probably a big deal, back, in the Knights of the Round Table era or something like that. So, Shannon, we will get into it in the next segment, but I just want to get your early thoughts on it. Calvin Ridley, it was a huge story yesterday. Commissioner Roger Goodell bans him and the wording is at least the next season. He can apply for reinstatement, I think, February of next year, 2023. He then went on Twitter. In fact, I think I saw you respond to him on Twitter. He said, "Hey, I don't have a gambling problem. I only bet $1,500. We'll get into it more, but what were your first thoughts on Calvin Ridley's gambling on the NFL and his subsequent suspension?"
Well, my first thought was he didn't go to Alabama to play no school. Is apparently they didn't teach him common sense down there in Tuscaloosa because, for one, they already tell you if you are playing a sport, you do not bet on the sport, right? Number one. Number two, you certainly don't bet on your own sport and on your own team or use your own name and your own money in doing so. And then I think I saw he's appealing this. How do you appeal it after you tweet that you're guilty by saying, well, it was only $1,500? Idiot. Idiot.
Yeah. I mean, and I'll go through the list. It's a very short list of NFL players, some of them very notable, but it's a very short list of NFL players who have been banned. And Shannon, again, you need to look no further than Pete Rose. And some people are saying, hey, Calvin Ridley, you're getting off light. If they're giving you 1 year, Pete Rose was banned for life. And, it goes to the integrity of the game. And you can kind of understand why professional sports leagues take this so seriously. It's a big, big deal.
Yeah, especially the NFL, who, as we've seen, even especially just this last season with all of the BetMGM and Caesar's Palace commercials, like they're moving closer and closer to making deals that they even threw in a special PSA commercial to make sure people that were gambling smart, that they weren't, bet what you can afford, those kinds of things. So for this, the NFL was right to come down as hard as they did here.
We got a whole lot to talk about all morning long. A little more Johnny Cash as we are schooling Taro Kotani on Johnny Cash. Thank you, Jeremy KOLOK. We'll talk more Calvin Ridley. This is the day. Aaron Rodgers is expected to make his decision, and more Tom Brady rumblings, at least from people reading tea leaves. We'll get into all of it. More Spurs, Greg Popovich, and more. She's Shannon Salty Sweeney. We are with you till 9 on the Chris Duel Show. Woo! All right, 1 hour down. Nobody got hurt. Are you good? Do you need any beverage? You need any food or anything?
I'm good.
Okay.
I'm good. Yes.
I'm going to stretch a little bit. Julio Reyes says hello to Taro. You're getting a lot of greetings. David Robinson does axe throwing in an HEB commercial. I have not seen that. Yeah, Jason, because I do Spurs radio, I miss all those Spurs HEB commercials, man.
You tried Burger Boy. Is Burger Boy, is that like a San Antonio?
It is I believe it's San Antonio exclusive, but it's very popular. It's very good. People here love it. Yeah, my iPhone is about 4 years old, and it's getting to the point now where the battery goes down. I know they engineer it because they want you to just get another iPhone. So I know they engineer it to. So now it's like I carry this with me a lot. My backup. Yeah, Luisa, we had some technical problems with Spurs React last night. My apologies. Hopefully, and I expect Wednesday night when Pop sets the record with TARO in attendance, we should be up and running with Spurs React. So we had a kind of a radio only, non-video React last night. Yeah, Sam Tobias, a lot of people are expecting Aaron Rodgers to make that announcement on the Pat McAfee show. All right, I will be back in a moment. If you need a restroom, that hallway, when you come out, you go down that hallway, it's on the right. So you go out, you take a right down that hallway we went down, and it'll be on the right. So, should you need it. All right. Yeah, Maxwell, you're right. Calvin Ridley could have been an Amari Cooper replacement. And now, I know you would want him this year, but after a 1-year suspension, you might be able to get him cheaper after all this. Let's see here. I got to share this on Twitter. Where is that? All right. Maxwell is saying per CBS, the Cowboys will. What's happening? Okay. I do.
He invited the two of you, me and Shannon, to the SAFC game on Saturday. If anyone's interested,
Very cool.
He said reach out to him. So
Okay.
yeah, so Taro High, and he said he's seen axe throwing in another city outside of Texas.
Okay.
So pass that along.
Okay. Thank you for that. Maybe next segment we'll do. I want to, before I forget, but we'll blink and it'll be 9:00. But I want to get a photo of you and Taro, and I got a tripod. Maybe we'll get one of all three of us on the tripod or something. So okay, cool. Thanks. So you go back when Friday?
Saturday morning.
Saturday morning. Okay, because Jason Garcia called in to him. There's a San Antonio FC soccer game Saturday night, so you'll miss that opportunity. Have you been to one of those yet?
No, never.
Yeah, and they're owned by the Spurs, so it's kind of cool. There's a lot of crossover Spurs fans who enjoy it.
Boston Spurs, they play tonight at the AT&T Center.
Do they really?
Yes, I'm going to that game.
Unbelievable!
Yeah.
I didn't realize that.
Perfect timing.
That's wild. I wonder if I know he does a lot of their games. Carl Schoening,
Oh, yeah.
the son of Bill Schoening.
Yeah.
We had him on the show last week. But he may. I mean, he may either be doing TV. Sometimes he does play-by-play. I think he has done. Sometimes he's like an on-court studio analyst. They'll throw to him on the sideline. But do you know what he looks like?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Go look for him.
On Facebook and stuff. Yeah.
In fact, I may
We follow each other.
I may tweet at him. See, I'm probably out of time for this segment. Let me see if I'm on ticket. Let me get out of that and I'll go into my Twitter. Come on. Jason Garcia, thank you if you're on board with us on the live video feed. Jason Garcia called in and offered San Antonio FC tickets to me, to Jeremy, to Taro, to Shannon. That was a very cool gesture. Yeah, and Maxwell, I was going to respond to what you said about Gallup maybe getting 50 million. Yeah, I mean, after that latest injury, you begin to wonder if he's injury prone, which is scary. So we'll get into that. Here we come. Going to mute a little bit for the evil overlords at Facebook, and then we'll be right back with audio.
Now, Chris Duel.
It is a Taco Tuesday. It is morning in America. It's a beautiful day in the neighborhood. It's a beautiful day in Spurs neighborhood as Taro Kotani, the greatest international Spurs fan, has made his 17th pilgrimage from his home in Tokyo, Japan, to San Antonio, where last night he watched as the San Antonio Spurs defeated the Los Angeles Lakers 117-110, earning Coach Gregory Charles Popovich his 1,335th regular season victory, tying Don Nelson, his former boss, and his former mentor, one-time mentor, and his close friend for the most regular season wins in NBA history ever. Tomorrow night, Spurs take on the Toronto Raptors at the AT&T Center. Taro will be there, and hopefully he will see Greg Popovich get that record. Chris Duel Show with Shannon Salty Sweeney. And Shannon, I am remiss that I did not bring this up in the 6 o'clock hour. Not only is this Taco Tuesday, Shannon, but this is March 8th, International Women's Day. Congratulations and happy International Women's Day.
Wow.
For saltiness.
I thank you so much. I had nothing to do with it. All thanks to my parents. Because I had no choice. I didn't know it was a day, but I just got a notification that our lovely bosses and specifically Brittany, because I know she's the brains and the one doing all the work behind the scenes. I'm getting a Tiff's Treats delivery to my house after the show today.
Wow.
Who loves hot cookies in the morning?
That?
They let you set your own delivery time, and I was like, immediately after the show, that is when I want hot cookies. I'm going to rush out of here, and I want those to be at my door the second I get home. I can't think of anything better. I'm having a great week,
Now,
Chris.
I see.
It's only Tuesday.
Fantastic, as you should. Congratulations. You should have a great week. Now, Tiff's Treats, I see them all over I see those vehicles all over the streets of San Antonio, Austin, everywhere. I've seen like boxes delivered here to the radio station, but I've never been to Graceland and I've never had any Tiff's Treats. Hot cookies, is that describe the virtues of Tiff's Treats?
Well, one thing we love about them is that it is a Central Texas original. They both the company, the founders, the owners are from the University of Texas, so they have great involvement with them. But they just came up with this awesome. I mean, this is like before the Uber Eats and the Postmates really got popular. What it was, Tiff's Treats came out, and you could get warm, freshly baked cookies of your flavor of choice delivered to your door or sent to somebody else as a gift or whatever. They'll do a little note in there as well. They have special packages for, little birthday signs or what have you. So it's just a great idea. And on top of it, they're delicious cookies. And I can't believe no one's sent you cookies to the station. They absolutely should do that.
Never happened. I've seen cookies sent to other people at the station, but I have yet to have Tiff's treats. But I hear good things about him. Jeremy KOLOK, has you ever enjoyed a hot cookie from Tiff's treats?
Yeah, I've had the privilege and the honor just once in my life. There's a couple times that people around me have received a Tiff's treats package, and then when you get like a package of like a dozen, warm cookies, you usually give one to or offer one to those in your vicinity. So it's a good plan to, if you're not receiving any, Chris, which I apologize at this point, you have not. It's the next best plan, in my opinion, is to try to associate yourself or just be in the vicinity of people who do receive them, because they're going to get more cookies than they're going to eat in one little sitting.
Yeah.
And what are they going to let them go cold?
Yeah.
No.
I mean, so that's my backup plan.
That's something to remember. That is something to remember. I got to remember that. Taro, I'm assuming in Tokyo, I don't think they yet have Tiff's treats, cookies, but in your 17 trips to San Antonio, have you ever had Tiff's treats, cookies?
I don't think so. I've seen their names here and there. I've heard of their names here and there, but I've never had Tiff Street to my house myself.
See, there's these white vehicles. If you're Ubering around South Texas, they're usually a white vehicle, right, Shannon? I see Tiff Streets all over the vehicle, and
those little like square
now that we
boxy
brought
vehicles.
it up. Yeah, cool. All right, we will talk more about the Spurs and about I believe before we dive back into the NFL, Shannon, Taro, you're here for 2 more games, right?
Yes, 2 more games.
So no pressure on Coach Craig Popovich, but you came all the way from Tokyo, and you said this. I saw you saying this on social media before you got to town from Japan. You said you wanted to come and you wanted to see history. You saw a good bit of history last night when Pop tied the record for most regular season wins, but you really, really want to see the record. So the Spurs have to win one of the next 2 games, and the next one is at Toronto. How confident are you that they're going to deliver to you the victory?
I'm very, very confident, very optimistic. I'm just, I don't know. It's going to be a weird feeling. Even yesterday when the final buzzer ended, I knew that Pop had tied Don Nelson for the most wins in the regular season. It wasn't like a championship, but I kind of felt really special just to be in that arena. So, to be able to be in the arena when Pop's actually breaks the record, it's going to be super special. So Pop, he better win at least one of the next 2 games.
And we will talk more about that, and we'll get Taro, Shannon, and Jeremy's thoughts. Will there be a demonstration at the end of the game? Will DeJounte Murray pour Gatorade on Pop? Will somebody have a bottle of wine nearby or something? We'll talk about that. But Shannon, I do want to dive back into the National Football League. At least 3 big stories, and more if we're Dallas Cowboys fans, because one of our viewers on the live video feed, Maxwell, saying that CBS is reporting that the Cowboys are going to offer Michael Gallup $50 million for his new contract. But bigger stories, of course, and we touched upon it briefly in the 6 o'clock hour. Atlanta Falcons wide receiver Calvin Ridley banned from the NFL for 1 year for his gambling on NFL games. And apparently it happened when he was away from the team in November of last year, when he was sorting through some mental health issues. Here's, Shannon, I've got the list of NFL players who have ever been suspended for gambling. And there are 5 players on the list. Yesterday, there were 4. Now there are 5. 3 of them are pretty notable. In 1963, Alex Karras, a lineman of the Detroit Lions, he was later once in the booth for Monday Night Football. He was in Mel Brooks' movie Blazing Saddles, where he famously throws a right hook at the face of a horse and knocks out a horse. Not a pretty moment in movie history, but Mel Brooks was going for a laugh. Alex Karras and Paul Hornung Paul Hornung was the golden boy out of Notre Dame, a running back for the Green Bay Packers. Both of them suspended for gambling in 1963. I think they both sat out at least a year. In 1983, Indianapolis Colts and former Ohio State quarterback Art Schlichter was suspended. He had a huge gambling problem. Art Schlichter wound up losing everything. He was addicted to gambling and could not stop himself, and it destroyed his life in the same way a heroin addict can destroy their lives from heroin. In 2019, lesser-known NFL player Josh Shaw, and now number 5 in the history of the NFL yesterday, Calvin Ridley, is suspended. Shannon, this is obviously a very short list, and I think it's a very short list because it is drilled into the heads of NFL players. And if you walk into an NFL locker room, there is a huge poster at the front door of any NFL locker room that says gambling of any kind on this league by players or personnel involved with teams is strictly prohibited and will be punished by banning you from the league. For there to only be 5 in the history of the NFL, and the first 2, Alex Karras and Paul Hornung, dating back to 1963, I think that's all the more remarkable about this Calvin Ridley story.
Yeah, I'm just sitting here. We talk so much about this billionaires club in the NFL, and people, whether you're a billionaire or not, they don't like their money to be messed with. And as we discussed earlier, the NFL working to build bridges between the league and gambling for those that are available to gamble, right? Not the players within the league. But when a player does something like this, it takes away from the integrity of the game. It makes it seem like with that inside information, or if he was playing at the time, right? Was he doing something to prohibit a win? Did he know something that wasn't known to the greater public? There are people that do bet on these games that are then wondering, am I just throwing my money away? Can they not believe in the teams that they're maybe rooting for? So that money goes elsewhere? There's a lot of people in turn affected by what and how they perceive Cameron Ridley betting on, in one instance, his own team. He picked his Falcons to win in November against the Jacksonville Jaguars, which is kind of like, okay, obviously. Did anyone else see the Jacksonville Jaguars last season? Not that crazy of a bet. But he did it also via a mobile phone and another set. Like, I don't understand how he did it and did it under his own name without, like, what influence was he under to not realize I'm going to get caught? Because the NFL does have a separate party that is used to uphold the integrity of the NFL, and they got tipped off by whoever he placed the bet with, and they knew that this was wrong, and they let the NFL know, and the NFL has been dealing with it. And apparently Calvin Ridley has been okay since he's gotten in the league. Not necessarily outstanding, but he's been worth the phone calls that the Atlanta Falcons have been fielding about him during recent weeks, and other teams interested in him. And out of good faith, they have declined those discussions, knowing that this was coming, and he's now sitting out for a year. He did also tweet that he'd be back healthier when he does return, and kind of laughed at the fact that he was given a year suspension. And that in turn, is a whole other conversation of, okay, well, how does that punishment, does it fit the crime? I think it does. But it's just wild that someone would kind of be that stupid to do that. That's just, again, idiot, stupidity, stupid.
Yeah, I do agree with you. I think now more than ever, I mean, I agree with you about, the punishment fitting the crime. I think it has to be severe. I think it has to be a year for a first offense minimum. I don't like what Major League Baseball did to Pete Rose. I think they went too far, banning him for life. I understand a severe penalty, but especially now, Shannon, gambling and betting on games and fantasy sports, all of it is so much more prevalent now as gambling becomes more and more legalized. And now as all of us have a gambling machine in our hands, our smartphone, any players or coaches or people involved with the leagues that create any suspicion that games can be thrown. This is why the Miami Dolphins owner, if they find out that he wanted to throw games and was going to pay his coach they got to blow him out. And I know, the NFL closes ranks among its owners, and this is pretty much the way the owners want it, because they never want to be the one to be blown out. That's why Daniel Snyder hasn't been blown out yet. But if an owner or a player or somebody associated with a team in any sport creates the possibility or the evidence of throwing games, my God, that does go directly to the integrity of the game. And if you can't trust the games themselves, then the whole sport becomes a sham. And that's just the absolute worst. And it was a big deal in 1963 when Alex Karras and Paul Hornung were suspended. I think it's an even bigger deal now when gambling, because I think, Shannon, there's going to be more and more of these temptations now. Clearly, for whatever the reason, you said he's stupid and it was a stupid act, but Calvin Ridley, and you said he did, like the rest of us, he had a smartphone. He could go gamble from his phone, and for him, the temptation was too much. He's like, man, I got to do this, and he did it. And I heard LeVar Arrington on the show before us, Two Pros and a Cup of Joe. He made the point, first of all, don't ever do this. But secondly, if you're going to do it, you go to your friend. It's like if I'm in the NFL, I go, hey, Taro, let me give you $1,500. Bet on the Dallas Cowboys, take the 6 points and bet on the Cowboys to win. And if you win, give me my money and I'll give you LeVar Arrington kind of gave you the template for how you really do this if you're a pro athlete. First of all, you should not do this. But secondly, you do not ever, because it'll cost you your career. You do not ever gamble in your own name on your own sport.
Yeah, and looking at his tweets that he's released since yesterday, that first one being, I bet 1,500 total. I don't have a gambling problem. It's almost like he doesn't see the bigger picture that we're kind of discussing here. He sees this as, I got a year, I only bet this amount of money, which is small in comparison to his contract, right? To me, that is a large bet. That is a lot of money. And then he's saying he doesn't have a gambling problem, as if to say, when I get back in the league, it's not going to be a reoccurring thing. That was a moment of weakness. That I messed up. I understand that. I won't do it again. It's not something that I'm going to have to be like checked on every time, right? When the Falcons play the Raiders in Vegas, you don't have to have somebody following me around, making sure I don't hit up, a couple of those hotels and see what's on their casino floor. But to me, again, it's about the bigger picture of the NFL and the integrity of the game and the money around the league that gets put in by people who are able to gamble and do gamble, and making sure that's all set and fair. It's like the guy at the Super Bowl again with the Bucks and the Chiefs, right? He put a bet down that there would be a streaker at the Super Bowl. And then he was the one that went and did the streaking. And, ultimately that bet was a wash, right? You can't, if you are part of the game, you cannot bet on it. Whether or not you're on the field at that moment, you are still connected to that team. You still have information that others do not, whether or not it was a moment of weakness. And if Calvin Ridley truly does get to come back to the league, someone picks him up, he continues playing. I really hope that this was just a one-time incident.
Now, something, if you're Calvin Ridley, to be concerned about, Shannon, I gave you that list. Alex Karras, Paul Hornung, Art Schlichter, 2019, Josh Shaw. He was a defensive, I know he's not a household name, and maybe this is why he never came back to the league. But at the time, he was a cornerback with the Arizona Cardinals. By the way, Josh Shaw went to USC, so add him to the list of O.J. Simpson, Reggie Bush, and a litany of other players, Todd Marinovich, who have run afoul of the law after playing football at my alma mater, USC. But so he's banned in 2019, Josh Shaw. He's 29 now, so he was 26 at the time. After he was reinstated 1 year later in 2020, no team picked up Josh Shaw. Now, that could be because Josh Shaw just wasn't that good. Or, I always think one of the reasons Colin Kaepernick was blacklisted by the NFL if you ever cost billionaires their money, billionaires don't look kindly upon that. So I think the NFL was very punitive in blacklisting Colin Kaepernick because fans went away. The president at the time made it an even bigger deal, and they lost ad revenue, they lost tickets, they lost money. And I think, and a lot of people agree, Colin Kaepernick messed with the bottom line of the NFL, and you don't do that or they will punish you. I wonder, Shannon, if the unspoken lesson of Josh Shaw is, yeah, we'll reinstate you after a year, but you might not come back. It's going to be very interesting to see if Calvin Ridley has a career a year from now, or if teams stay away from him like he's radioactive.
Right. We mentioned there were phone calls coming in earlier this week to the Falcons about potential opportunities to get Calvin Ridley on their team. Falcons, in good faith, did not take those phone calls and start working on anything, knowing that this was coming. It'll be interesting if those phone calls return a year from now.
And you think about it, here are the Cowboys looking like they're going to move off of Amari Cooper, who originally signed a $100 million contract over 5 years. Calvin Ridley, was he a guy maybe the Cowboys were looking at? It's like, can we get a same college, Alabama, can we get a guy who's a really good wide receiver at a lesser cost to fill that slot that's going to open up when we move away from Amari Cooper? Maybe Calvin Ridley was on the Cowboys list. And now that perhaps has changed as well. As we roll forward, more coming up with our special in-studio guest, Taro Kotani, the greatest international Spurs fan, making his 17th trip to San Antonio to see the Spurs from Tokyo. Coming up in the 8 o'clock hour, GOTTSCH, who's done so much in the world of sports over the years, including a whole heck of a lot in the world of baseball. Now getting involved in professional bull riding and a new league, bringing the Austin Gamblers to Austin. That's going to be a big deal in the Moody Center, which makes it even bigger. We'll get into that at about 8:15 with GOTTSCH. Coming up, Shannon's Salty Shakedown, sports history, sports birthdays, and more. She's Shannon Salty Sweeney. Taro Kotani in studio. Jeremy KOLOK makes the show go. We're with you till 9 on the Chris Duel Show. All right. How's it going? You doing okay?
Good, yes.
Okay. You need anything?
Yeah, fine.
Okay. Anthony Huerta, I see you make an interesting point. The next generation coming up is being inundated with gambling commercials and sponsorship. They may not see gambling as the evil the previous generations have. That could be. Bless you. Let's see. Sam Tobias says, I'll be watching the Pat McAfee show today on YouTube to see if Aaron Rodgers makes any significant announcement. Yeah, a lot of people are believing that he would do that on the Pat McAfee show, so we'll see. Let's see here. Here we go.
Back to the Chris Duel Show with Shannon Salty Sweeney.
The Eagles, Jeremy KOLOK's mom's favorite band, The Things You Learn. Very cool band. All right, TARO KOTANI, special in studio guest, TARO KOTANI. TARO, have you heard of the band The Eagles?
Yes, I have.
You have, yes, thank you. Haven't heard of Johnny Cash,
No.
but you've heard of the Eagles.
Yes.
Who is your favorite band?
My favorite band?
Are they from Japan, or is there another band?
They're from Japan, actually.
And what's their name?
They're called GLAY, GLAY.
GLAY. I'm gonna have to go check them out. I'll have to YouTube them.
Yeah, they're very popular, especially around the 90s. One time they did a concert of 200,000 people.
Wow.
Yeah.
Are they still together? They
Yeah,
still making
yeah.
music? GLAY, GLAY. I'm going to check them out on YouTube. Before we get into Shannon's Salty Shakedown, sports history and sports birthdays, this is a little late, but Jeremy, I do give you credit. We were talking about axe throwing, and I'm so Texas and so provincial, I just assumed it started in Texas because I'm kind of an idiot. Jeremy, you did some research, and where did axe throwing begin, if we're going to be historical about this?
Well, if we're talking competitions of axe throwing, it is believed that they were first held by the frontiersmen in North America, which makes sense. I feel like if you got lumberjacks chopping down big old trees up in the northern part of North America, the frontiersmen, that makes sense to me. But there's also been reports of axe throwing competitions amongst the Celtic tribes. So,
all right. And Shannon, being Irish, you've got some Celtic blood in you somewhere. So it could go all the way back to Ireland and the old country. It could be in your DNA to throw axes.
I mean, we do have a family castle in Ireland, so I wouldn't be too surprised if there was like axe throwing grounds to see. Yeah. And next week, don't forget St. Patrick's Day. It's coming. We're all very excited.
Oh, that's right. And you mentioned this as well. Isn't one of the first 2 days of the NCAA tournament happens on St. Patrick's Day? Is that accurate?
Yeah, Thursday is going to be a big day. Friday might be a little rough, but Thursday will be awesome.
Okay. Very, very cool. All right. In a moment, Shannon's Salty Shakedown. More coming up in a little bit with TARO KOTANI, our special in-studio guest, the greatest international Spurs fan and international man of mystery. 8 o'clock hour at 8:15. JJ GOTTSCH of the Austin Gamblers of the Professional Bull Riding League. That's going to become a big, big thing at the Moody Center in Austin. He's going to tell us all about it. He's been involved in such big sporting events around the state of Texas for so many years. That's going to be very, very interesting as we talk with him as well. But first, before Shannon's Salty Shakedown, how about some sports birthdays and this day in sports history? March 8th, 1930, baseball slugger Babe Ruth signs a 2-year contract for what was then worth a huge $160,000 with the New York Yankees. Yankees general manager Ed Barrow predicted no one will ever be paid more than Babe Ruth. Yeah, hold my beer, Ed Barrow, but a nice prediction. This day in 1936, the first stock car race ever held at Daytona Beach, Florida. That would kind of become a thing. This day in 1971, Smokin' Joe Frazier ends Muhammad Ali's 31-fight winning streak. It was at Madison Square Garden. It was Ali's return to the ring after being banned from boxing for refusing induction into the United States military, the Army, during the Vietnam War. It was a unanimous decision in 15 rounds. It was called the Fight of the Century. Sitting ringside, among others, Frank Sinatra. It was one of the biggest events in sports in the year 1971. And finally, in 1986, on this day, Martina Navratilova who, by the way, is a big Cowboys fan. Martina Navratilova became the first tennis player to earn $10 million, appropriate on International Women's Day. That's pretty cool. That's your sports history. How about some sports birthdays? Born on this day in 1942, American baseball player, infielder Dick Allen, 7-time Major League Baseball All-Star. He was the National League Rookie of the Year in 1964, American League MVP in 1972, played with the Chicago White Sox, the Philadelphia Phillies. He was born in Wampum, Pennsylvania, and he passed away in 2020. Another baseball player born this day in 1953, Jim Rice, Hall of Fame left fielder, American League MVP in 1978. He was an 8-time Major League Baseball All-Star with the Boston Red Sox. He was born in Anderson, South Carolina. Born on this day in 1965, Kenny the Jet Smith, guard with the Houston Rockets of the NBA, now most famous to be on that panel on TNT with Shaq and Ernie Johnson and Charles Barkley. Happy birthday, Kenny the Jet Smith. And Shannon, finally, born on this day in 1974, a guy who quarterbacked the Saskatchewan Roughriders of the Canadian Football League out of BYU. Oh, yeah, he later became a head football coach and is now the coach of the Texas Longhorns. Sark, Steve Sarkisian. Happy birthday. How are you going to celebrate Sark's birthday today, Shannon?
I'm going to eat my Tiff's treats because that's what Sark would want. Don't let a hot cookie go to waste.
Yes. It's all gas and no brakes as you eat those cookies.
That's right.
In honor of Sark on his birthday. There you have it. Those are your sports birthdays. That's your sports history. And now, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, friends, Romans, countrymen, farm animals, pole assassins, and monkeys, here it is, your Taco Tuesday Salty Shakedown.
Chris, this week there was a package intercepted and seized that was shipped from China and going to Florida, because of course this involves Florida, of counterfeit championship rings. The total count of rings was 230 Tampa Bay Bucks rings, 110 Atlanta Braves rings, 80 Chiefs rings, and 10 Milwaukee Bucks rings. There are photos online of these rings. Even some of the Chiefs rings had Patrick Mahomes engraved on them. Federal authorities say that this 230 batch of rings is equivalent to $345,000 that have been seized. Now, Chris, I just don't get it. Like, I feel like if you're going to do it, because I'm not a criminal, but this this story just made me think, if I were to be a criminal, if I was a criminal and this was my area of expertise, wouldn't you want to go for championships that were not nearly as recent, right? Where it may be easier to get eyes on the actual ring to figure out if one was counterfeit or not? Wouldn't it be too soon for maybe some of those players to mysteriously have auctioned off those rings or given them away to where they'd be floating around to where others could potentially grab it? Wouldn't you go back at least to the 90s or sometime before social media where these rings are now so widely available for viewing? Am I wrong here, Chris? Am I not a good criminal?
No, it may be time for a life of crime. I think that's a great idea.
I mean, I just to whoever was the supposed not so mastermind, because these were seized before you could sell them, maybe just think about those things. Let's not get a championship ring over the last 18 months. Maybe not even the last 5 years. Let's go back. Maybe go back to the 90s. We're get some Bulls championship rings or something to sell. And heck, as we know now, and as we've seen actual memorabilia go for the high thousands, if not millions of dollars at this point, there is value and greater value in time, right? The older something is, the more, think of that Patrick Mahomes ring that this person was trying to sell. That's Patrick Mahomes' first Super Bowl ring. Isn't his first Super Bowl ring going to be worth more later on in his career, especially if he were to get more? Come on. Think these things through. If you're a criminal and you need help, just hit us up. hit us up on the phone line, 1-800-707-9760. Maybe I can help you out. All right, story number 2, we're going to keep it with the NFL. I saw this, and I can't believe it. I can't think of worse ownership. In this case, was rumored 3 weeks ago that Kanye West and Antonio Brown, who are now business partners, by the way, were interested in buying the Broncos. We've also heard that the Mannings might be interested as well. The Broncos valued at $4 billion. I'm not sure where Antonio Brown, how he would help pay for that. I'm not sure of Kanye's funds, but I'm sure he has more than Antonio Brown. Antonio Brown caught up with some paparazzi, except it was very interesting. I watched a full video of all of the questions, and Antonio Brown, was walking back and forth in this parking lot as if to keep the questions going, right? To keep the eyeballs on him. And then at the very end, the photog asked, hey, is it true that you're wanting to buy the Broncos? And he said, yeah, Roger Goodell, give me a call. Chris, this isn't going to happen in a million years, but could you imagine? I mean, if you're a Broncos fan, you'd have to find a new team because A, you're not going to win Super Bowls. And B, you'd have to deal with that nonsense all of the time.
My God. And, a guy who quit on his team, a guy who just had to get run out of Pittsburgh, run out of the Raiders organization. Robert Kraft could only stand him for one game. It would be an absolute train wreck. It would be. And he'd argue he'd fire coaches left and right. He'd blow out quarterbacks. My God, that would be a train wreck.
Chris, our final story today, it starts off sad, but I do want to let you know that there is a happy ending. And that happy ending, although it is yet to come, will occur later on this week, so we will provide an update. As we know, the NBA season, it's nearing its regular season end, and there have been a couple of hiccups in the schedules because some teams have had to deal with COVID issues, and so there have been rescheduled games. Some of those games have involved the Warriors, and Steph Curry and Steve Kerr and company are not really happy with the way that the league rescheduled these games. For instance, they recently just played in Denver. They had to then travel home for a home game that's coming up, and then they're going back to Denver on Thursday. Steve Kerr made it known, listen, we're not happy about the reschedule. 3 games, 4 days, the travel. And with that, on Saturday, prior to the recent matchup against the Nuggets, he said, we're going to have some players that just don't travel. One of those players that did not travel to the game last night to play the Denver Nuggets in Denver was one Steph Curry, much to the disappointment of a young fan that is now captured on video crying, holding up a sign that says, Go Warriors, MVP Steph Curry. Someone tweeted, a little girl wearing Warriors gear at Ball Arena was holding up a sign with her mom that said, we've been saving our pennies for 3 years to watch you drop dimes, number 30. And that her heart just broke. This clip is hard to watch as she realizes prior to the game that not only is Steph Curry not playing, he didn't even make the trip. And we've talked about this before, right? With players getting rest, especially at the end of the year. Is it the right thing to do? Obviously, the circumstances with the rescheduling a little bit different here. But there's a lot of people that, yes, they're fans of their teams, but they get excited when certain teams come to town because they have certain players, they have certain stars, and that's where that ticket price really comes in, right? But in this case, this little girl did not get to see her hero, Steph Curry. But don't worry, because the vice president of communications for the Warriors has let us all know that little girl and her family have been invited and given tickets to Thursday night game this Thursday against the Warriors with the Denver Nuggets, that Steph Curry will be in tow. He will take the court, and we can only hope that Steph Curry gets to meet this young fan whose heart was absolutely crushed last night when he did not make an appearance. Chris, this makes me happy. I hope we get to see it, but there it is, today's Salty Shakedown.
Outstanding Salty Shakedown, and I want to ask Taro about that, Shannon. You had a similar circumstance last night. You and a lot of people went to that Lakers game. LeBron did not play. Did you cry and ask that you maybe get tickets to a future LeBron game? How disappointed were you that LeBron did not play last night?
I was there for the Spurs, obviously, but you want to see the best players. You want to see the best competition. So, from my personal end, I was a little bit disappointed that LeBron didn't play, but what I wanted to see was a Spurs win more than anything else.
Yes.
That's what I got last night. So I was okay with it. You know, it would have been better if LeBron played and the Lakers lost. But yeah, I was okay with it last night.
Steph, where are you on Steph Curry? Do you like Steph Curry? Do you think he's a good guy? Are you a fan? How do you feel about Steph Curry?
Well, I don't know. I wouldn't say I'm a fan, but I do get intrigued with what he's been able to do on the basketball court. A lot of his 3-point shooting, it's kind of crazy. I mean, it's kind of changed the culture of the NBA, the way the game is played now with so many 3-point shooting. It's kind of him who started that trend. So for him to be able to kind of change the culture of the NBA the way it is today, it's kind of amazing.
And Shannon, I got to believe that last story you did. You know, Steph Curry, we see him so often with his daughter. I mean, he's got to meet up with this little girl. I mean, it's got to happen, right?
Oh yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if he's seen this video and it pulled at all of his heartstrings. You know, thinking of what if that was my daughter, waiting for her idol to appear in person for the first time ever. You've been saving pennies for 3 years with your family, and then you ultimately just don't show up. And we've seen him do great things before, especially with his younger fans. So I'm sure we'll get something great out of this come Thursday.
Very cool. We will keep an eye on that. And Shannon, you know, we've talked NFL. We've talked a lot of Calvin Ridley. The Green Bay Packers made what is being called a very significant offer to Aaron Rodgers, a long-term offer, a multi-year offer to keep him in Green Bay. A lot of analysts are saying that we expect Aaron Rodgers to perhaps today make that announcement. If he does, a lot of people point to where he makes a lot of his announcements on the Pat McAfee show, which you can access via YouTube. What do you think Aaron Rodgers does? I mean, part of the factor here with him is the fact that he is a different breed of cat. So while we've often said his best chance to win a Super Bowl is probably in Green Bay, you just never know with this guy.
Yeah, I don't even, as we sit here today, I don't know that I feel one way or another as far as will he stay or will he go. I do like the idea, though, that he makes the announcement on the Pat McAfee show. I think players kind of taking those announcements, like we've seen with JJ Watt and others, into their own hands and doing it on their own stage and being the ones to break the news, right? I mean, Tom Brady probably didn't appreciate the leak, I guess, of his retirement before he made the official announcement. So when it's something like this and it's something as big as Aaron Rodgers, because we know once this domino falls, the rest will start falling pretty quickly as far as where quarterbacks might end up and other players in the league. Someone on our live video feed mentioned the rumor that Devontae Adams, I guess he bought a house in Las Vegas and what that might mean. You know, is he going to be a Raider? Mm-hmm. Is he not going to be with the Packers? And clearly, Aaron Rodgers loves him some Devontae Adams and wanted him to be in Green Bay if he was going to stay there. So is that a little hint to where things might be going?
Yeah, and the Packers can franchise tag, and a lot of people think even today they could franchise tag Devontae Adams. Even if he bought that house in Vegas, Packers could hold on to him for the time being as well. Coming up, big 8 o'clock hour, JJ GOTTSCH, the Chief Executive Officer of the Austin Gamblers, of the professional bull riding team, which is coming online at the Moody Center. We'll get into that. We'll talk more Spurs and Greg Popovich. We'll talk more NFL and Dallas Cowboys. Lots coming at you. Don't go anywhere. She's Shannon Salty Sweeney, Taro Kotani in studio, Jeremy KOLOK making the show go. We're with you till 9 on the Chris Duel Show. Do that. Oh, man. One more hour. Whoa. So have you been getting enough sleep with the time change and all that?
Not much. I can sleep in the evening.
Okay.
Like midnight, but I get up at like 4.
Wow.
every day.
Yeah, that's a significant time change.
What I do, like right around 5 o'clock, I go out and walk around the river walk every single day.
Oh, that's nice. I hope the weather, I think Thursday, it's going to, at least in the afternoon, it's supposed to be warm, but for March, this is unseasonably cold for San Antonio.
Yesterday and today.
Yeah, I'm not liking it. I don't like cold weather. I need warm. Oh, we should probably, I wonder if I should. Yeah, you want to get a photo before we forget?
Yeah, sure.
Because I want to make sure, come on over here and we'll get with Jeremy. I've got it. In the studio in front of the mics and stuff. Let's see. How do we want to do this? Yeah, just come on over here, like where you were sitting, and we'll set this up. In fact, I'll hold my Greg Popovich prayer candle. Let's see, you're there. I'm going to be there, so I'm going to do this. Yeah, okay. You ready? Yep. Okay. Do one more. Beautiful. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Yeah, we should have had a wind machine. That would have been nice. So I'm assuming they're calling us on the studio hotline. Is that? Shannon, you can't hear us over there, can you? Didn't hear you. Yeah. Check with Shannon if she can hear you. I'm pretty sure that's the case, but I didn't get a confirmation yet on that. She set it up. Okay, so yeah, keep an eye on it, and they'll probably call in a little bit before 8:15. Okay, what's happening? I know. What can I tell you? What's new?
Well, I'm glad they won the game last night, but it wasn't a. Yeah, they Coca-Cola sponsored about 40 different radio stations to go up there. So
Oh my goodness!
I got to go there for a week.
Wow,
Pretty cool.
that is tremendous.
Pretty cool.
Yeah.
So you've been here how many times?
Since my 17th.
It's a long drive, isn't it?
Yeah. Whenever I hear somebody go, I got a long commute to go to the Spurs. I come all the way from Bernie. I love, meet Taro Kotani, who comes from Tokyo.
That's pretty good. Pretty good.
And he's like, if you saw social media, he's been with Bill Schoening, he's been with the Coyote, he's been with David Robinson. The Spurs gave him a number 50 Fiesta jersey with Taro on bag. David signed it. He's been with Mayor Ron Nierenberg.
Maybe I should go to another country and come back a few times and I'll get something. Also.
Yeah.
I got to get back to work.
All right. Take care. All right. Gotta. Yeah, Lonnie Taro has 2 chances. Who's that? What's the game? Friday night?
I think it's Utah.
Utah. Oh God, you better beat Toronto.
Yeah.
Utah's tough, but I think did they beat Utah earlier this year?
Yeah.
I mean, they can obviously beat either one of those teams.
It was
but-
in Utah too, I think.
Yeah. They beat Golden State at Golden State. I think they beat Milwaukee at Milwaukee, defending champions, and then so yeah, I got a good feeling. I think it's going to happen. Yeah, they're expected to call about 8:15 or for the 8:15 second. So I would think, 8:10, 8:12. Just keep an eye on it. Here we come. Gonna mute for a moment for our evil overlords at Facebook.
Now, Chris Duel.
It is Taco Tuesday. It is Taro Tuesday in studio. Taro Kotani, the greatest international Spurs fan and international man of mystery from Tokyo, Japan, with us in studio this morning. You can see him on the live video feed that you can access via Facebook Live, via Twitter, and via YouTube. Don't forget about that iHeartRadio app where we come in crystal clear and where you can message us instantly now. We've been telling you about this. Go to the iHeartRadio app at the bottom of the screen as you listen in via either AM 1300 The Zone or Ticket 760. You got a microphone button at the bottom of the screen. You tap that, you talk to us, you leave a message, you send us that message. We hear it instantly, and often we'll play that on the air. Shannon Salty Sweeney, Jeremy KOLOK makes the show go. Taro Kotani in studio. In just a few minutes, we'll be talking with GOTTSCH, the Chief Executive Officer of the Austin Gamblers, a brand new franchise in the Professional Bull Riding League, which is going to be cool. He spent a lot of time with Ryan Sanders Sports, the Round Rock Express, Corpus Christi Hooks, and actually brought Major League Baseball to the Alamo Dome a number of times, which is way, way cool. And what's cool about this, Shannon, and we'll talk about it here in a few minutes with JJ, is professional bull riding coming to the Moody Center, which, as we all know, is the big state-of-the-art venue coming online in Austin.
Yeah, and that'll be in August, and it's going to be the first pro team event to take place in the Moody Center when they get to riding. So that's pretty awesome too, that they're making history. And also, you know, this league, there's 8 teams. The fact that Austin was chosen to be one of those teams, and they're getting first pick in the draft. I mean, we talk plenty of sports here. We know how valuable that first pick is. So excited to see what JJ has to say about this league and about Austin and why he decided, you know, to make that jump from baseball to bull riding. I mean, it's lots of action in bull riding when you compare it to baseball.
Yeah, and you know, inevitably, you know, and bull riding obviously in rodeos, and you know, it's been around a lot, but you know, inevitably there will be, you know, new leagues and new things that catch on over time. And you know, here's a guy with a ton of professional sports experience and very successful at it at a very high level, who believes that this is the next big thing, professional bull riding. And I mean, come on, Austin, Texas, Central Texas, South Texas, what, you know, a pretty darn good venue if you're going to make professional bull riding work in a big, big way.
Now, how do you feel about like the rodeo? I know Austin Rodeo is getting started. Obviously, I feel like you may have a love-hate relationship with the rodeo because it does take place in the Spurs home of AT&T Center, so it forces them on this extended road trip. But as far as the event itself, I mean, there's nothing quite like it. And I'm curious if Taro has ever seen bull riding or like mutton busting, anything like that live, because it really is an experience all on its own.
I've never seen bull riding live. I've seen some highlights on TV, but that's just about it.
Yeah, and as you know, because of the rodeo road trip, the rodeo itself is a big, big deal. I mean, there's the Houston rodeo in Austin, rodeo in San Antonio. I mean, from Tokyo, have you learned a lot about that? Have you seen anything about that?
I've seen some highlights on TV, but not so much. Not so much.
Yeah, certainly. You know, kind of a throwback to the old West. And in just a few moments, we'll talk to GOTTSCH about it. He's going to join us probably about 8:15, maybe in the next 4 to 5 minutes. So Taro, we'll talk a little more about this with you after we talk with JJ. But again, 2 chances now. You're going to go to 2 more Spurs games before you go back to Japan tomorrow night. Well, and actually, in a weird way, the Austin Spurs tonight are playing at the AT&T Center. So tonight, I mean, he's such a super fan, Shannon. He's going to see the Austin Spurs tonight at the AT&T Center. They make one of their rare games. They're usually at the Cedar Park Center. And then you'll have Spurs tomorrow night and then Spurs against Utah on Friday night. One of those 2 San Antonio Spurs games, you need Pop to get his win with you in attendance.
Oh, yes, definitely. That's what I came here for. I guess I came in at the right time, perfect timing. I got to see Pop tie Don Nelson's record yesterday, and then now the stage is set for the all-time record.
Very cool. Well, we'll talk more about that coming up. Now, though, we are very, very excited because we do have him on the phone line. This guy has just done so much in the world of sports and certainly in the state of Texas as the longtime chief operating officer at Ryan Sanders Sports and Entertainment. That meant a lot of work with the Round Rock Express, with the Corpus Christi Hooks, and of course, bringing that big league weekend, bringing big league exhibition baseball to the Alamo Dome in San Antonio. Those were just such incredible games and such a great event. And now he is on to something different right now. It is professional bull riding and a brand new franchise that's going to operate at the state-of-the-art Moody Center in Austin. It'll be the Austin Gamblers. He is the chief executive officer of the Austin Gamblers, JJ GOTTSCH. JJ, how you doing this morning?
Good morning, Chris. Can I hire you to do my intro every time?
Absolutely. I am, and I'm, as you may know, I'm in San Antonio this morning, and Shannon, as she always is in Austin. But in San Antonio, we loved the All-Star weekend that you were such a big part of, bringing Major League Baseball to a very, not the most ordinary venue in baseball, the Alamo Dome that wasn't built for baseball, but you guys made it work. So we absolutely love everything you've done from a San Antonio perspective, and clearly Round Rock Express, Corpus Christi Hooks, and more. To make the leap from baseball, you were so entrenched, among other things, in the world of baseball to professional bull riding. How did that happen, and what made you say, yes, I'm going to do this?
Yeah, that's obviously a pretty big leap. I'd worked for Nolan Ryan and his family for the last 24, 25 years, just unbelievable people. I always tell people that Nolan is a better person than he was a baseball player. The rest of the family, and including the Sanders family, the same way, had unbelievable employees that we worked with, as you talked about, with the Express, with the Hooks, and obviously with what we did there in San Antonio with Big League Weekend. But at a time in my life and at a time here in Austin and San Antonio, when it's a wildly different market, as you guys know, and I love my friends at iHeart and love both Austin and San Antonio, this metro market of San Antonio and Austin is it's over 4 million people now. It's basically one market. It's wildly different. There's a lot of people here. And just the need for additional entertainment is greater. And the PBR, which was already arguably one of the most exciting sports in the world, was doing a brand new venture where they're going to this team concept, where these individual riders are going to get drafted. As you talked about, go on 8 different teams. So we've got 8 markets. We got Phoenix, Austin, Fort Worth, Oklahoma City, Kansas City, Springfield, Nashville, and Winston-Salem. We're going to compete in a 10-week or 10-game season, and then the finals will be in Las Vegas. We'll be hosting our event here in August. And as you talked about, at the brand new Moody Center, we're actually going to be the first sporting event, not UT basketball, men's or women's or anything else, but we're going to be the very first sport to actually have an event inside the Moody Center. So I think it wasn't just really one thing, Chris. It was the fact of being able to be employee number one with this organization, this franchise. Not just a new franchise, but a new league, a completely new concept for this already exciting product with PBR. The opportunity to be the first event at the Moody Center. And then for me and my family, the opportunity to stay here in Central Texas. We've got roots here. We've been here for 22, 23 years. My wife's family is from the San Antonio area. And so it was important for us to be able to stay here and to be able to get this opportunity to be able to bring professional bull riding to Central Texas. Just one of those once in a lifetime opportunities that I just couldn't pass up.
Well, JJ, the draft for this PBR team series is in May, taking place in Arlington, and the Austin Gamblers have the top pick. Now, Chris and I, last weekend was the NFL Combine, and we're talking about how guys are performing and how that looks as far as their draft stocks. We've got that down with NFL and the NBA. We can kind of look at guys and kind of select where they might end up. But what do you look at for a bull rider as far as attributes that might make them worthy of a top pick?
Well, I'm like you and like a lot of people, I'm getting a crash course in bull riding right now. Fortunately for us, our coach that we hired is a gentleman by the name of Michael Gaffney. And we were extremely lucky because Michael was actually one of the founders of PBR around 30 years ago. Michael's a former national champion in PBR. He held the record ride up until a couple years ago, and he is also in the PBR Ring of Honor. And so to have someone like that to be able to teach me, sit side by side, help us. I've gone to a couple different PBR events over the last 3 weeks, and just to sit next to this guy, because I know inside baseball, Shannon, when you come up to the Express and we could sit down and we could talk about why guys are shifting and playing certain positions and how they're going to get pitched, that's what I really have to learn on the bull riding side. But fortunately for me, we've got Michael. He's already got some assistants on board as well that are helping us with scouting. But the really exciting piece for us is that we actually have the number one draft pick, as you mentioned. And for those that are new to PBR or newer to it, there's a gentleman from Brazil by the name of Jose Vitor Leme. And Jose is, in the world of sports, he's the LeBron or Kevin Durant of basketball or of bull riding. He's the Mike Trout. He is by far and away the best bull rider in the world. He's the two-time reigning champion. He's got the highest score ever. He's the one that actually beat our coach's record. He's the man. And so you never know with these guys because the opportunity for them to get hurt is obviously high. So not just pick one, but we're going to end up having actually 7 riders on the roster. 5 will participate each week. So, our big work is looking at rounds 2 through 7. And we're going to be spending a lot of time over these next 2 months, seeing who's hot, seeing who's healthy, and then make some of those picks from that information.
We are talking with JJ GOTTSCH. He is now the Chief Executive Officer of the Austin Gamblers of the Professional Bull Riding Team Series. And JJ, you alluded to the years of success for professional bull riding, but never before like this in a team series. As you ran and had your fingerprints all over the Round Rock Express and the Corpus Christi Hooks, known as 2 of the most successful franchises in Major League Baseball. I know one of the big things that you guys did was the fan experience. If you went to a Round Rock Express game, or if you do, or a Corpus Christi Hooks game, not only are you going to get a great game on the field, but just a great fan experience. Now, obviously, the brand new Moody Center, just because of what it is, and it's a new state-of-the-art facility, there's going to be a lot of, just jaw-dropping just walking in there. But have you thought yet about, what the I guess the game day, for lack of a better term, when it's professional bull riding, the event experience is going to be like for the fans? I know we're still a ways away from this happening in August, but what do you envision the experience being like for fans as they walk into the Moody Center and cheer on the Austin Gamblers?
Well, that's a good point, Chris, because that's really one of the most important things, right? And so for those that have been to a PBR event, you kind of know what to expect. For those that haven't, obviously what PBR did is they took the very best part of the rodeo, bull riding, which, as we all know, is saved for last because it's the best part. They took that, and then for 2 hours, 2+ hours, they put that on steroids. We're the best bulls in the world, the most athletic, fiercest bulls in the world, with the most athletic, best bull riders in the world competing. And then they marry that with music, loud, fun music, with pyrotechnics, with fire. It's really almost sensory overload for 2 hours. And that's the competition part. And sitting down with some of the PBR production folks, they're even going to take that to another level. So I'm excited to kind of see what that program is going to look like. But in addition to that, we're going to create a wraparound 3-day festival called Gambler Days, which is going to be a food, food festival, music festival, all things kind of Western lifestyle, Western heritage, Western sports themed that are going to take place near Moody Center, around the Moody Center, and in Austin. And leading up to that, we're going to have a bunch of events, not only here, but in San Antonio, in Corpus, in Waco, throughout the Central Texas region. So we're really going to get out there, and we look to reach as many fans as possible and extend this brand even beyond Austin.
Well, JJ, we've got pre-sale tickets available beginning next Monday for the inaugural PBR Team Series, and then full sale goes live March 21st. Can you tell us about how folks can get tickets to this event and where they can follow the Austin Gamblers as they wait for the season to start so they can continue to follow the team and get excited for that big event come August?
No, absolutely, Shannon. Thank you so much. So AustinGamblers.com. Then we're on all the different social handles under Austin Gamblers. And then obviously tickets, as you mentioned, are going on sale, pre-sale the 14th, and then general public on the 21st. Easiest way is just to go directly to the Moody Center's box office online and purchase tickets there. I will tell you that it's not going to be a full house because of the production and the layout and some different ways that they set these events up. It won't be a full house, so it's going to be somewhat limited capacity. So they'll definitely be sold out all 3 nights. So I would encourage folks to purchase tickets early. But again, best way to stay in touch with us and what's going on is AustinGamblers.com or on any of our social platforms, which are also Austin Gamblers.
JJ GOTTSCH with the Austin Gamblers. And JJ, as I hear you say that, the likelihood of this selling out at the Moody Center, it reminds me of Austin FC, which the Austin Gamblers just recently came online at Q2 Stadium. And that place, it's hard to get a ticket. It sells out quickly. I wonder, and again, with all of your years of experience in professional sports, given the exclusivity or the difficulty in a certain respect of getting a ticket, if you have a hard time getting it, does that kind of add to the allure over time of, hey man, this is one of the hottest tickets in town, I need to get my hands on this?
Boy, Chris, if we could be half as successful as what Austin FC has done with their launch here over the last year, that would be amazing. They've obviously just a great blueprint to try to follow. But you bring up a good point. For those folks that have moved to Central Texas in the last 10 to 15 years, which we know there's a lot of them, for a lot of folks, the Spurs are already here and there's already a built-in fan base. And so, you don't really get a chance to latch onto them, or it's not as easy. Or if you moved to Austin and you didn't go to UT. But I think what Austin FC showed is that when you launch a new team and you've got not only folks that have lived here for 15, 20, 30 years, but those who have only lived here for a couple, you get an opportunity to jump on board with an organization from day one, and it makes it your organization. You really feel a part of it. And so what's exciting for us is that not only is this going to be here for those folks that have been here in Austin, San Antonio, and throughout Central Texas forever, but for those folks that have just moved here, they're going to get to be a part of a brand new team, a new league, and a new launch, and they're going to be on from day one. And we're just excited to go on that ride with hopefully as many folks as possible.
Well, we are very excited, JJ, and as the event gets closer in August and subsequent to the draft in May, let's talk again, and we just want to get a better understanding of all the excitement that is coming to the Moody Center in August, and of course, as JJ mentioned, across social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, you can go find the Austin Gamblers, and those tickets do go on sale, pre-sale on Monday. So it will be a hot ticket. Grab it early, grab it on Monday via Ticketmaster at Ticketmaster.com for those pre-sales. JJ GOTTSCH, the Chief Executive Officer, congratulations. This is very exciting stuff. And we look forward to seeing how the Austin Gamblers come online at the Moody Center in August. Let's talk again soon.
Thank you so much. And Chris and Shannon, I'll let you guys talk offline and you guys let me know which one of you wants to try to get on a bull first.
That would be Shannon. I can already tell you, JJ. I think Shannon is much younger and much more athletic than I am. So Shannon, congratulations.
Wow.
The
thank you
offer
so
is
much.
there.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Sure. Why not?
That's video. That'll go viral, JJ. I love
Ooh.
it. JJ, thanks so much, man. We'll talk again. We appreciate it.
All right. Thanks, y'all.
Thanks, JJ GOTTSCH of the Austin Gamblers. Yeah, Shannon, my age, I had major back surgery in 1997. You're the one getting on the ball.
That caught me off guard.
I will video and cheer you.
Gonna be mechanical?
I will cheer you. I will buy you Tiff's. I will buy you Tiff's treats. I did get a mechanical bull back in the day, back in the Urban Cowboys day. But all right, coming up, more with our good friend Taro Kotani, who is in studio from Tokyo for the 17th time to see the Spurs. And we'll get caught up on all the other stories. Von Miller in the news, Robert Kraft in the news. And Shannon and I did watch episode 1 of Winning Time about the Los Angeles Lakers dynasty on HBO Max. We got to get into that and more. Lots coming up in the final half hour. Don't go anywhere. Taro Kotani, Jeremy KOLOK, her saltiness, and me, Chris Duel, till 9 on the Chris Duel Show. All right. Oh, excuse me.
This is your 17th visit, huh?
17th. Yes.
And you're going to be here till what day?
I fly out Saturday.
Are you going to go to another game?
Yeah, 2 more games.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Wow. That's pretty good.
I haven't been here in like 2.5 years. Last
Because
time
of
I was here was
Because of the
October.
pandemic, right? Yeah.
October 2019. I had plans to come here. I actually had purchased tickets for the Spurs games for March 2020, but then because of the pandemic, I had to cancel that trip. So it's been quite some time. I was actually trying to come here at the end of December last year, but then that's when the Omicron blew up in Japan as well. So if I had come here in December, I had to quarantine like 14 days when I was entering Japan. So it's like 14 days, the government would like assign you to a hotel.
Yeah.
And you're stuck there. Yeah.
Yeah. When I flew over there, it was a long flight, and then it took about another 3 hours to get from the airport to our hotel in Matsumoto City.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. That's where we were. And but I learned very, very little. I do remember domo arigato, ohayo gozaimasu, konnichiwa. Okay, what is it when they say Domo arigato ohio gozaimasu all together.
All together?
Well, that's what I thought. That's what I think I remember.
Oh. Thank you and good morning.
Good morning. Okay. Yeah. Konnichiwa is what? Good afternoon or good evening?
Konnichiwa is more like hello.
Okay.
So you kind of use it anytime of the day.
And the good evening was what?
Konbanwa.
That was it. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I was trying to remember that too. But I didn't learn very much, of course, just a couple of greetings.
Yeah,
That was it, though. But the people were very nice, and it was really nice to be there, and got to go to the closing ceremonies also, which was very, very nice. And I got to hear the United States national anthem because the next Olympics was going to be here in Utah, the next Winter Olympics. So that was pretty cool. Yeah. How about that? So where do you stay when you come here?
I just stay at one of the hotels in downtown.
Yeah. Well, have you ever had any barbecue?
Barbecue, yeah. I went to Augie's barbecue.
August, okay, because one of my advertisers, I'm in sales. I also do broadcasting, but I'm in sales. And one of my clients, one of my advertisers, Chris endorses, and it's called the Big Bib Barbecue.
Oh, okay.
It is fantastic, fantastic. So he should take you to the Big Bib.
Big?
The Big Bib, like a baby bib.
Oh, okay.
How do you say bib in Japanese?
I forgot the word. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm telling him that what you should do while he's here, take him to the place that you endorse.
Big barbecue. That's outstanding barbecue. Absolutely. Yeah.
Make him take you.
You like it. It's very good. It's probably the best barbecue in
It
town.
is great.
Yeah. Good man.
No pressure, of course.
No pressure. Thank you. Wow, Jason, that's interesting that they had two different intros to Winning Time. I didn't know that. Let's see, I was going to do this. All right. Very funny. Jason, I wasn't in the room, but when David Munoz walks in, there is usually a dad joke. You're very perceptive to know that was probably coming. Very nice shout out from you, Pablo. Good morning, Frank Ramirez. Here we come.
We're back. It's the Chris Duel Show with Shannon Salty Sweeney. Join in by dialing 1-800-707-9760.
Jeremy KOLOK providing the Texas flavor to our good friend in studio guest, TARO KOTANI, the greatest international Spurs fan. And speaking of international, Shannon Salty Sweeney, Pablo Perez writes on the live video feed, Happy International Women's Day to Shannon. Keep doing your thing.
Oh,
That's pretty cool.
thank you. Again, I had no say in the matter, but I'm happy to be the representative on the Chris Duel Show.
You know, maybe you did have, maybe before you incarnated, you said, do I want to be a guy or do I want to be a woman? Okay, I'll go be Shannon Salty. Maybe you did. And we just don't know. I don't know. Maybe. It's possible. All right, Shannon, in a moment, we're going to get some thoughts from TARO KOTANI as he gets ready. He's going to see the Austin Spurs tonight. They're playing at the AT&T Center instead of the Cedar Park Center, which they normally play at. So he'll see them, and then tomorrow night, hopefully, he'll see Coach Pop become the winningest regular season and postseason coach in NBA history. I want to know if he thinks any of the Spurs will celebrate with Pop if they get that win. But I want to get caught up on a couple of items that you're tracking, Shannon. Texas Aggie originally, then a Denver Bronco, then an LA Ram. Von Miller maybe on the move again in the National Football League. What do we know about that?
Yeah, he started last season as a Denver Bronco, where he did win a Super Bowl once upon a time. Was a mid-season trade over to the Rams, where he then won another Super Bowl. And it seemed the consensus for the stars and faces of that Rams Super Bowl winning team was, let's run it back. Let's do it again. But yesterday on Von Miller's Instagram story, he posted a picture of himself in his old uniform, or, you know, an old picture of him playing. He did not actively have on that Broncos uniform. But he said, should I be, you know, he's had 58 or 40, I think were the numbers to choose from. 58 was what he previously played, and then 40, I guess, would be a new number in that Broncos uniform. And then you went to the next picture, the second slide, it was the same picture, but then he had a little bubble quote at the top that said, do you think they'd let me get my old number back? So I don't know if he's winding down his career. He wants to end where he started, but like he barely left. Like he basically walked in the door, grabbed a Super Bowl ring, and is now walking back out to go back to his house.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting. Yeah, that's weird. It's just weird for him to post that stuff at this point. So we'll keep an eye on Von Miller. Robert Kraft, the owner of the New England Patriots, Shannon, and a man who we know enjoys a good massage now and then. He has a new woman in his life. I saw the photo of them together yesterday on social media. She looks old enough to be his granddaughter. What do we know about this?
She does, and I didn't realize he was seeing anyone. I thought the only people he was seeing was behind closed doors that he should have never walked into in the first place. But apparently he is engaged to a gold digger. I mean, a young female who looks, from their red carpet pictures where she's just constantly showing off some of his Super Bowl rings, like they're going to last for a couple months. They're going to be together for forever. Or, you know, he may bite the dust soon. Who knows? Maybe that's what she's hoping on. I don't know. It's just weird.
Yeah.
It's weird that it's news.
Yeah,
and
no,
honestly, it's weird knowing the things that he has done or allegedly has done. I don't know how a female would put up with that. But good for her if she's
he's
happy,
80.
I guess.
Yeah, he's 80 years old. I think she's like 47. So, and I photo very attractive lady. So, I mean, obviously,
Disgusting.
Robert Kraft can be picky. So yeah, I know. Yeah, she's gonna have to like. I don't want to be graphic, but she's gonna have to like share the bed with Robert Kraft. Enjoy yourself. But hey, there's a big payday waiting for her, I do believe. All right, back to basketball for a moment, and Taro might be interested in this. There's a new dramatic series based on the Lakers dynasty called Winning Time. It's on HBO and HBO Max. Episode 1 has dropped. All about the Magic Johnson era, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, about Dr. Jerry Buss buying the Lakers originally from Jack Kent Cook. Shannon, what'd you think? I thought it was fun. I enjoyed it.
I watched episode 1. I thought it was fantastic. I'm looking forward to more. Obviously, I was not around at this time that it all takes place, which is when the Lakers are about to draft Magic Johnson and they'll move on from there. But in episode 1, a lot of questions popped up for me, specifically Jerry West, who at the time was the coach of the Lakers, did not want Magic Earvin Johnson to be a part of that team. But there was a little like joke, or not even a joke, but Jerry West, very angry guy, apparently. At least that's what he's made out to be. And then as Buss, new owner of the Lakers, kind of made a statement about how Jerry should be drinking vodka instead of whiskey because people have a harder time smelling it. So apparently Jerry West, just an angry drunk, which I didn't like.
It sure looks
that's
that way.
That's your NBA logo, you guys. And then on top of that, there's this moment where they're going through the other players that are already on the Lakers, and one of them being Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, and I guess he's into acting and is acting with a young kid. And in the script, the kid talks about how he's his favorite player, but his dad says otherwise. They cut. They are on a break from shooting, and the kid goes over to Kareem and says, you really are my favorite player. Is it all right if we get a picture? And Kareem tells the kid to F off. And and I've seen Kareem in acting later in his career, like in recent things and just being out and about. And he seems like a nice old man. Like it kind of broke my heart when he did that to the kid, because that's just not the image I had of him.
And the scene is a famous scene from the movie Airplane, which was a comedy. And Kareem Abdul-Jabbar plays an airline pilot in the movie Airplane, and the kid has that scene with him, which is very, very funny. So, Taro, are you going to have a chance, do you think, to see the HBO Lakers Winning Time series?
I hope so. I don't get HBO in Japan, so I'll have to check it out.
We'll have to get you a bootleg version. It's done well. I liked it more than I thought I would like. And again, and you could tell, Shannon, and I know you didn't grow up in that era, but the opening scene is from 1991 and Magic is at the hospital, Cedars-Sinai Hospital. You were able to tell what that was, that was when he was getting his HIV diagnosis, correct?
Yes, I was aware of that part.
I figured. Okay, but yeah, they didn't get into that yet, but it's interesting. That's how they open the series. And the other thing I did love, Dr. Jerry Buss, the character, is constantly looking at the camera and like playing to you, the audience, telling you to watch him do this.
Yeah.
Which I always, Kevin Spacey did that in, that
House of Cards.
House of Cards. Yeah. It was very much like Kevin Spacey in House of Cards. Have you seen this yet, Jeremy? Have you seen Winning Time yet?
No, I started to watch it last night, but then the clock struck past midnight, and I figured I should probably get to bed before the Chris Duel show approaches. Rather,
there you go.
But it's on the docket. I would like to. I'd like to see it.
I like it. I give it a thumbs up. All right, Taro, we got to ask you. You're a huge Spurs fan. You want very badly. You came all the way from Tokyo, Japan to see this. You want to see Pop win one more game. You're here for 2 more Spurs games. There's an Austin Spurs game tonight, but Pop's not coaching that one. But you're going to be here tomorrow night against Toronto at the AT&T Center, Friday night against the Utah Jazz at the AT&T Center. So I want to ask you, and then we'll ask Shannon and Jeremy. Let's say the Spurs win one of those 2 games. And I think they're going to win Wednesday night, tomorrow night against Toronto. Clock goes to 0. The buzzer goes off. What happens? And I guess the leader of the team is DeJounte Murray. Will DeJounte pour a bucket over Pop? Will he have a bottle of champagne ready? How do you think, or are they afraid of Pop? Or are they not even supposed to acknowledge it? What do you think happens in the moment when the game ends and Pop becomes the winningest coach in NBA history?
Yeah, I think having seen Pop over the years, I think he's just going to treat it just like another game. So I think he's just going to walk back into the locker room and move on to the next game. But I hope that when Pop walks into the locker room, I hope the players just, drip water all over him. Sometimes you see that on TV. So I hope the players do something for Pop, but I just don't have a feeling that it's going to happen, knowing what kind of person Pop is.
Shannon, what do you think? What do you think is going to happen? And we may find this out tomorrow night.
I'm very in line with what Taro said. I don't think he'll make anything of it, especially on the court. But I can kind of see like there being bottles of champagne in the locker room that players might pop when Pop himself walks in.
And in addition to champagne, we know Pop is a wine connoisseur. If some of those players do their research, somebody could have a killer bottle of wine that would impress Coach Pop. Jeremy, you're a big basketball guy. What do you think happens?
If you asked me 5 years ago, I'd probably agree with Taro and Shannon that he wouldn't do anything. But I would like to think in this kind of newer phase in Pop's life where he acts a little bit different than he did when he was like the war captain, right? Under Tim Duncan and Tony Parker and Manu Ginobili's reign. So I would like to think that I could see him at least doing a little wave, like going, doing a full 180 even, maybe even a full 360 to give a wave to all the fans up in the rafters at the AT&T Center, up in the nosebleeds and whatnot. But what I hope, and in the new age of, social media and marketing that these teams are so good at, I just hope there's somebody waiting in the locker room with a camera to capture that moment that y'all are talking about that is more likely, which is where Pop gets his little celebration walking into the locker room, like almost like an ambush from DeJounte Murray and the other leaders of the team. I think that's more likely.
Yeah, I heard it was either Lonnie Walker or it was DeJounte in an interview with Bill Schoening in pregame on Spurs Radio, who said, Pop doesn't want us to celebrate it, but we're going to celebrate it. I'm trying to remember. I think it was DeJounte. It could have been Lonnie Walker. So Shannon, I would hope, I want the fans to see it. I hope they either go Gatorade bucket, although you don't really have those in the NBA on the sideline. I would hope somebody has a bottle of champagne nearby and douses him over the head, or a la many Super Bowl winning coaches, pick him up, get a couple of 3-4 Spurs, pick him up and carry him off the court. Just like a Super Bowl, so many Super Bowl championship coaches get the ride off the field. Pick him up and put him on your shoulders and carry him into the locker room. I would love to see that.
Pick him up, but don't you dare drop him.
No, that would suck. Yeah, you better not drop him. Yeah. No, they wouldn't drop him. Yeah, one leg on one dude's shoulder, one leg on the other dude's shoulder, one guy behind him to make sure he doesn't fall backwards. It's going to be fascinating. And I think the smart money is nothing's going to happen. But I think DeJounte Murray, who is the leader of this team, is going to do something. And so, Taro, as in our final moment here, I do have in my hand my holy Greg Popovich prayer candle. I have had this for years. I have lit it, as you see. I think there's a better chance the Spurs win tomorrow night if I give you this Greg Popovich prayer candle. So I want to hand this to you. I want you to own it. I want you to take it to your hotel room. And knowing that Taro Kotani, the greatest international Spurs fan, is now the owner of the Holy St. Gregory Charles Popovich prayer candle. I think, Taro, I believe in magic, and I believe in blessings, and I believe that there's a better chance now that Pop wins tomorrow night because you are now the owner of the Greg Popovich prayer candle. I'm just saying.
Thank you, Chris.
So there's that.
Yeah.
So we'll see if it works. If they lose tomorrow night, it's like, I didn't know what I was talking about. But if they win, I'll say, see, I told you it's because Taro's here and he now has the candle. So there's that. Taro, any final thoughts for Spurs Nation? It was great having you in studio. We're honored. You've done this before, and we thank you. When you come into town and coming to the studio with us. It means a lot to us, and I know it means a lot to our listeners and our viewers. Thank you so much.
No, thank you so much, Chris, for having me. Whenever I'm here, you always have me in the studio. And, like I said in the beginning, the reception that I've received from the city and the team has been just amazing. Starting with Mayor Ron Nirenberg, Jimmy Olsen, Chris Monroe from the Spurs, also Veronica and Aaron from the Spurs marketing team, Cecilia from the Spurs social media team. They've been really, really awesome serving me at the arena. And a lot of people have come up to me and asked for pictures at the arena as well. So, to everybody who I've met on this trip, thank you so much.
All right, Taro, great having you. Go Spurs, go.
Go Spurs, go.
Shannon, great work. Jeremy, great work. Let's do this again in 21 hours with Bill Schoening on tomorrow's show.
Let's do it.
Don't go anywhere. We'll see you in 21 hours. Have a great Taco Tuesday. Adios, amigos.
Thank you, Chris.
Taro Kotani. Thank you, sir. We'll see you later, Facebook. Adios.